simultaneous, I'm going to need your help. And the way you can help me is I'll talk a little bit, and then you can help me by asking some questions. Okay? Is that our partnership? That's our relationship here? And everybody is thinking, oh, okay, the person next to me will ask a question. I've been through this before. So everyone will think the person next to me, but actually I need you to think and ask a question. And then we can go back and forth like that, and we'll see where the conversation goes. I'm going to also offer in the beginning, as is the tradition, a prayer to my spiritual guide, my teacher. It's in Sanskrit, but I'm offering my respects to him for opening my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. Om Gana Tavarandasya Gana Gana Salakaya Jakshushun Militam Gena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharani Nirvasesha Sunyavadi Paskacharya Satadani Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasari Go Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. We were thinking that, Socrates says, know thyself and to thine own self be true. Well, let me say this. Sorry to start off with this reference, but the propaganda minister for Hitler, Goebbels, he said if you tell a lie loud enough and long enough, people will believe it. Tell a lie loud enough and long enough, and they'll believe it. And he said, don't tell a little lie. Tell a big lie. If you tell a little lie, people will quibble them up. But if it's a big lie, they'll say, well, they would never lie about that. And the fact of the matter is that we are being sold a lie. The average American under hypnosis can remember, I think it's over 300, I think it's actually 357, but 300's enough. Commercial jingles are rattling around in the head. You can count them on the way home. Coke is the real thing, Nike just do it. There's so many of them. And we hear it over and over and over again. There was a beer ad. You only go around once in life, so get all the gusto you can. Well, what if you don't go around? What if you go around more than once in life? There's a local joke. A man is trying to explain to his, let us say, intellectually challenged friend, and is trying to explain transmigration or reincarnation. You can help me out. I want to give an analogy from the Bhagavad Gita about a chariot. Can you remember that?
No.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, I'll move on. How about you? Bhagavad Gita and chariot. That's all you got to remember. That'll kickstart me. Okay? Bhagavad Gita and chariot. Chariot. Okay? Simple enough. I think you're up to it. So, we're being told, we're hearing repeatedly that the purpose of life is to enjoy. And enjoyment comes by satisfying the senses and the mind. We are trained like Pavlov's dogs. They'd feed a dog and ring a bell at the same time. And after a while, and the dog would salivate because he thinks he's going to eat. And then they just rang the bell and the dog would salivate anyway, thinking, it's conditioning. It's the beginning principles of conditioning. We You go to the doctor, you're a little boy, a little girl, and you get a shot. Wham, that hurts. What do? They give you a lollipop. Not so bad. Pain, relief. Pain, relief. Stimulus, response. Stimulus, response. And that becomes conditioned. That's happiness. And that happiness, oh, my little friend, off to a good start. Every kid gets 3 strikes. That's 1. You're still in the ball game, don't worry. Get 2 more. Otherwise, you can take them downstairs and they can run and play. But if our happiness is based on conditions, and think about it. I think I was saying, whoever it was, you know, we don't gamble, but we do have a temple in Las Vegas if you're ever there, at a nice restaurant. But you know, you pull the one-armed bandit, the slot machine, and all the cherries line up, and if you get them all, the jackpot pays off. We're conditioned. If I just get the right weather, if I just get the right location, I just have the right people with me, I have enough money, I'm in good health, if all of those things line up, ching ching, that equals happiness. And we're conditioned to think like that. But it's a real struggle to line everything up. You can be in the right location, but the weather sucks. You can have the right location, the great weather, but you're with, people you really wish you weren't with. Or you've got people you can just do all the math yourself, but you're not feeling well. You can be in a great weather, great place, friends you like, everything's great, but your mind's disturbed about something. So there's so many variables that we have to line up to call that happiness. And the happiness depends on conditions. Krishna says in the Gita, Bhagavad Gita, that, and I don't know if you know, this is sort of a mixed audience here, Bhagavad Gita is the basic source book of the Vedic wisdom. It was spoken by Krishna takes the role of the perfect master, perfect teacher, and Arjuna takes the role of the perfect student. He takes our role, every man. And the Bhagavad Gita is a series of questions and answers. Arjuna asking Krishna and Krishna giving the perfect answer. So in Bhagavad Gita, it describes this material nature as constantly mutable. It's always shifting and changing. Even in physics, everything's in motion. Everything's running down by entropy, friction. And so everything in this world is shifting and decaying, generally speaking, in due course, by the cycle of time. So if our happiness depends on having all these right conditions, and conditions by law, a priori, axiomatically, are changing, what does that say for our state of happiness? If my happiness depends on conditions, and conditions are always changing, what does that say for my state of happiness? Can anyone connect the dots? If A equals B and B equals C, anybody connect the dots? What does that say for our state of happiness? Huh? Yeah, it's always shifting. Even you may achieve it. There's a, you're right. You're on the right path. There's a. It describes in the Gita, Bhagavad Gita, this book I was talking about, that the mind is generally speaking in one of 2 states. It's either hankering or lamenting. I'll give you a simple example. When I was a kid, I was the youngest child in my family. My older brother went, my older sister went to school. I wanted to go to school like anything. They looked like fun. I went. I was looking forward. I'll be happy when I go to school. I went to school, a couple days, okay, fine, I'm done. I'm going to go home now, watch cartoons. No, man, you're here for 6 years. I said, what? I didn't sign anything. How did that all come? Nobody warned me about that. Where's the fine print? Okay, I'm on there for 6 years. I was thinking, okay, I'll get to middle school. I can play sports. That'll work out. So I was looking forward. When I got to middle school, that sucked. I think when I get to high school will be happening. Got to high school, this is ridiculous. But when I get to college, pizza, free rent, I can take advanced film, basket weaving, whatever. It's great, But that's how you feel as a freshman. When you talk to a senior, they're all saying, I want to get out. I want to get into the real world. Then they get out into the real world, and they want to work their way up the corporate ladder. I want to make more, I want to get a corner office. So they're always looking forward. And then they're thinking, when I retire, then I'll actually be able to enjoy it. And you talk to people, they're retired, they're sitting on their easy chair, and they're thinking, oh, when I was in high school and caught that, game-winning pass, when I was a young buck working my way up the corporate ladder. So they're either looking forward, or they're looking back. So where was the real state of stable happiness? Because the fact of the matter is everyone is looking for happiness. Even a plant, it turns towards the sun. In its own way, it's called anamoya, pranamoya, vijnanamoya, jnanamoya. I've got them mixed up. But there's different states of happiness. One state of happiness is just filling my belly. Another state of happiness, one develops a little sense of relationships, of family, of nationhood. A little further, one develops an idea of culture. A little further, then there's philosophical, and then, who am I and what's it all about, and that kind of happiness. And then ultimately, is the happiness of the self. So, the point I'm trying to make is if our happiness depends on conditions, and conditions are always changing. This is what in the California, when I grew up, it was called you're cruising for a bruising. It's an inevitable disappointment. I was in New York City, and I was flying to Puerto Rico. I was setting up our Spanish language publishing house. And in JFK, in the airport, as I was walking out, going down to my gate, there was a big signboard. And it has a picture, it was a beach in Puerto Rico. Beautiful aquamarine water, palm trees, 2 pairs of footprints. Great. And it said, going nuts in this city with nothing to do. Going nuts, in this city, noise, chaos, confusion. Go to Puerto Rico. It's tranquil, it's peaceful, you'll be happy. Look good. I swear to you, when I arrived in Puerto Rico, before I even got out of the airport, as I was going to get my luggage, there was a big picture with the New York City skyline. And it said, going nuts on this little island with nothing to do, go to New York where the action is. I remember scratching my head and saying, hang on a minute, this doesn't quite add up. Something's a kilter here, So, one of the things that Krishna consciousness teaches, our way of life, our practice, our teaching, is how to get beyond this flickering, flash in the pan, up and down, dependent on conditions, here today, gone tomorrow, happiness. And along with it is the hankering, if I just had this, if I just had that, if I didn't have that. J. Paul Getty, the richest man in the world at one point in time, Getty Oil, J. Paul Getty said there's only 2 types of people in the world. People you pay to stay with you, and people you pay to stay away from you. Now imagine what a miserable condition that is. But you're always calculating, we're always calculating how to adjust. We're saying that there is an entirely alternative way to see. And it hinges on a change of conception. It's as simple as that. It's just a change of conception. Right now, we're conceiving that we're the body. That's my analogy, Bhagavad Gita. Just by you thinking about it. Bhagavad Gita gives an example. Picture a cowboys and Indians, a Western movie. Picture the stagecoach. Picture the horses, picture the reins, picture the driver, picture the stagecoach, picture the passenger. You got that in your head? The carriage is compared to the body. Stagecoach is compared to the body. Because I have to know who I am if I'm going to satisfy myself. Isn't it? If I have an itch on my knee and I'm scratching my head, it's not really going to do the job. I've got to go to the actual source or cause of the. So, stagecoach is the body. The horses are the senses. Because the senses are always pulling us out. They're pulling it. They hear this, what was that? I smelled that. So the horses are like the senses. They're pulling the body. They pull us out in this world. And the reins are compared to the mind. The mind takes those various impulses and puts them into packages. Oh, you smell that? Oh, they're probably cooking. Well, hey, I'm hungry. Maybe how long is this guy going to talk? I'm going to go down and have it. So it puts together a package. And then the mind there's a bang outside. Maybe what happened? There was so many different things. So carriage is the body. Stagecoach is the body. The horses are the senses pulling us out in this world. The reins are like the mind that organize that sensory impulses and inputs and puts them into packages. The driver, via the reins, tells the horses where to go. The intelligence is taking those different packages and saying, oh, we're going to take this one. Oh, we're going to select this one. No, you don't want that. You want this. And we, the passenger, are simply riding inside. And the understanding that we are not the body, we're not black, white, we're not old, we're not young. It's just the vehicle we're riding in. I met a guy one time, he said, my body is just to carry my mind around, my brain around. But it's more than that. The body's the vehicle. But I'm not the horses either. In that example of the passenger in the stagecoach, I'm not the horses, I'm not the reins, I'm not the driver. I'm not any of those things. I'm simply the passenger. And if we learn, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, okay, so is that clear? That if we think we're the body or we think we're the mind, oh, somebody disrespected me, oh, you didn't, you don't love me, I don't love you, all of that emotional turmoil is all based on the mind. It's a big issue now. And what's always been an issue since the existential existence of humankind, but this sense of loneliness. Nobody really knows me, and if they really knew me, they wouldn't love me. It's a common dynamic. It's keeping psychiatrists engaged and family counselors since time immemorial. But if we understand, I'm the eternal soul. I'm not black, I'm not white, I'm not thin, I'm not fat. Getting old is tough. Botox, what people go through to try to keep everything going. So there's a lot of anxiety. Just think of, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, time I am, the destroyer of all things. If you have a boxing ring, I'm in one corner. Here's the individual soul, the jiva in one corner. And here weighing in at 350 pounds at 6'6" is time. Who are you going to bet on in that boxing match? We're all up against time, and time always wins. A man said, I was getting my tires changed, and a guy in the tire store, he was talking to his buddy, and his friend said, hey, what are you doing? He said, oh, I'm just killing time. So I couldn't resist. I said, actually, sir, no, you're not killing time. Time is just fine. Time is killing you. So we don't want to leave you in. So what do you do in this condition? If we that once change, if we calculate, I'm not this body. And all the needs and desires and anxiety, we have to feed yourself, you have to sleep, there's different demands of the body. We're not saying you neglect those things. But a culture that's simply focused on these things. My spiritual master, my guru, my teacher, would say truth to power. He came to America, and his observation was, he said, it's simply a society for polished dogs and cats. That's a pretty heavy statement. But what he meant was, you've got a society that's just, whether you're sleeping on a park bench in Times Square, or whether you're sleeping on Fifth Avenue in a penthouse apartment, whether you're a dog on the... Actually, a dog probably sleeps better than most people. He's not in a big mental anxiety. What happened in the stock market yesterday? So, what we're teaching, which all the great saints, it's called Sanatan Dharma. It is not, just like 1 + 1 is 2, last time I checked. That's universal. There's not Chinese math or Russian math or Indian. Those are axiomatic truths. It's like gravity. Somebody told me, well, I don't believe in the law of karma, so it's not true for me. You believe it. Does the law of if I don't believe in the law of gravity and I walk off a roof, do I fall? I mean, gravity is merciless. It's, whether you believe it or not. Everything has an equal and every action is an equal and opposite reaction. Jesus says, as you sow, so shall you reap. So the law of karma there are universal truths. Those are called Sanatan Dharma. There's so many different sects and so many different religions, but in the ultimate issue, like if I have, let's say, 32 64ths, okay, I can divide that to 16 30-seconds. I can design that, reduce that to 8 16ths. I can get that to 4 8ths. I can get that to 2 4ths. What is it? What's called the lowest common denominator? Yeah, I can get down to 1/2. It can't be reduced any further. So there's all different philosophies and ideas, but in the ultimate issue, they boil down to simple, common truths, and those are called Sanatan Dharma. Sanatan means eternal, Dharma means way or path. You look it up in the dictionary. It used to say your religion, but now they're actually expanding. It's come to the point of, okay, it means way or truth or practice. Oh, you're enthusiastic.
Oh, yeah.
There's always one.
There's always one.
Point I'm making is that there is a science. There's Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue, 1492. There's all kinds. You've got Newton's laws, you've got Galileo, you've got Einstein, you've got so many different. As there were explorers in the external world, pushing back the corners of darkness and finding out, how this material nature is working. There were also great saints and sages who were also explorers, but they explored the internal world of consciousness. Just as there's an external world, and all of our explorers, Vasco da Gama, we all get them stuck in our head when we were kids. It's logical that there are also explorers of the realm of consciousness. I think, therefore I am. Each one of us is an island unto ourselves with our own consciousnness and ideas and ways of seeing the world. How that all works has been studied by great saints and sages. And just as those that are exploring the external world have left their lab books and their laws of physics and all the thermodynamics and all that, there's also great saints and sages who've left their guidebooks to the realm of consciousness. Just like you can distill water, there's also a process for distilling our consciousness. Right now our consciousness is full of lust and greed and anger and envy and all. There's a way of filtering all that out to the pure consciousness. And the pure consciousness is not zero or void. It's described in the Vedas. What is it? Sat Chit Ananda. The default mode of the soul. Remember the passenger in the chariot? The default mode of our actual self, our actual consciousness, our actual experience, default mode, is called Sat Chit Ananda, which means eternal, full of knowledge, and full of happiness. This the knowledge of eternality, I'm beyond death. Full knowledge. So Sat Chit Ananda. Ananda means not this flickering happiness, but deep. It's called Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma, Nasojate Nakanchate, Krishna says in the Gita. That means beyond hankering, beyond lamenting, and tasting the happiness of the self. So my spiritual master said one time that we, all of us, everybody in this room, he said, we are not meant for small things. Get myself back and forth from Walmart, pay off my mortgage. Okay, fine, you may have to do it. Make sure my teeth stay in my head, learn to brush right. Whatever it is. Those are all small little, get a retirement home. Okay, fine. But there's a story by a sadhu, story about a sadhu. Sadhu means saintly person. There was a sadhu who was visiting, they travel and they visit different places. If you travel, you don't get attached. You can't get too comfortable. A rolling stone gathers no moss. So it's quite often that senior saintly people will travel. So this saintly person was visiting a town. And one man, he was going to speak that evening in the local temple. So one man told his friend, oh, this sannyasi, this sadhu, he's speaking at the temple tonight, and you should come. And the man was very wealthy. There's many saintly, pious, wealthy people. There's miserly, miserable, poor people. We're not doing that, don't worry about that. But this man happened to be very proud. So he said, I'm not going. I know what's going to happen. I'm going to go to the temple. I'm going to hear the talk. He's going to talk about depend on the Supreme. But when he's done with his lecture, he's going to ask me for money. I know he's going to ask me for, a new charter or about a cow or some land. I'm not going. I've been hit up too many times. I'm not going. I know what his training is. His friend said, no, this is a different type of sadhu. You'll like it very much. And knowing his friend, he said, and after the talk, they're going to have a great feast. Coconut kachoris, nice sheer, nice, samosas, fried ghee. Guy says, I can sit through anything, for a good meal. So he goes. The rich man goes. The arrogant man. And this is the sadhu talk. When the sadhu's done, my teacher used to say that the face is the index of the mind. So the saintly person could understand the mind of the arrogant rich man. So when he finished his talk, he called him over. And the rich man said, I knew it. I sat in the back, I sat behind a pillar, and the guy still sussed me out, and here we go. And sure enough, the sadhu said, I need your help. Can you help me with something? I said, I knew it. Good thing I left my wallet at home. I was thinking like this. And the sadhu says, I have this needle, and I use it for sewing up my cloth, and I lose it all the time. He said, can you just keep this needle for me? You just keep it for me, and you give it to me in my next life. Can you do that for me? What do you think the rich man answered? Can anybody here, and what's a needle? Can you even buy a single needle? You have to buy a packet, isn't it? And I think even a pack of needles, assorted sizes. Yeah. Okay, he's with us. So you have to buy a pack of needles, and it's insignificant in the price. So I'm asking you to keep one insignificant thing, and just give it back to me in my next life. Nobody can do it. And the rich man, to his credit, realized, I'm so proud of what I've got, and I can't even take a needle to my next life. So that happiness that is beyond conditions, and it is the default nature of the self, just as there's explorers of the external world, there's explorers of consciousness. Just as there's a process for taking contaminated water, polluted water, and distilling it, there is an art, there is a science, there is a methodology. By science, I mean, there's steps you follow, and if you follow the steps, you'll get the result. There's a phenomenology, whatever you call it. There's a step of the thing. There's a process, and if you follow it, you get the result. It says that there's a verse, it's poetic. It says, the great saintly persons have crossed over the ocean of birth and death and are in the land of transcendence. What? So they've all gone and left us behind? He says, no. They've left the boat of their instruction, which we can easily sail across. So what we're teaching, I'm just giving you an intro, but we are teaching the essence that are taught by all great saintly persons. They're distilled down into the Vedic literature. And they're even more distilled. There's different ages, different seasons. Just like there's the Aquarian age, the age of Pisces, all that. The Vedas are more scientific. But there's different ages, different climates. We're currently in what's called the age of Kali. There's 4 ages. I don't want to take your time going through it. But people used to live longer, their minds were more peaceful. This is the age of Kali. If you can make it to 100 years, it's a miracle. If you're not senile about 70, then, congratulations. So people can't practice meditation for 10,000 years. People used to live 100,000 years. They can't sit peacefully. I, one time, before I became a Hare Krishna monk, I was looking for a quiet place to meditate. I went to Oregon. I went to a national park in Oregon. I drove my car as far as I could into the national park. I got out and I walked on a logging path as far as I could. It was Cascade National Forest. I mean, I got out and so far, and I was going to camp out there for about a month and live on nuts and berries. I sat down in my first morning for meditation. I hadn't been there, I swear to you, not more than 10 minutes, and a plane went over, and it was trailing a banner, drink Coca-Cola. This is not working. This is not the way to go here. Hey, I'll be with you, just hang on, okay? And it's simple. We are in the age of Kali. We cannot sit for 10,000 years meditating on the sound of one hand clapping. It's not going to happen. But there is a process. And I will give you a 30-day home demonstration for your karma back guarantee. Money back guarantee. If you chant the Hare Krishna mantra, you'll find in every tradition, whether you're Catholic, Muslim, it doesn't Jewish, they have the tradition that they're people that are very serious about spiritual life chant the holy names of the Supreme, the names of God. And it that you chant Jehovah or Allah, Elohim, it doesn't matter what that name is. Oh, goodbye, my little friend. Does somebody have a clock? Well, how long do we usually go to, by the way? What does the talk usually go to? 1:30. Well, we're going to take some questions. So, the point I'm making is this is serious. It's universal. Right on time. Bye-bye, my little friend. Tell him we'll be done in a few minutes. We have a humble appeal. If you're going to sail on a boat, you need well, I'll say it this way. Here's a little quick quiz for you guys. Why is knowledge compared to a lamp? In the Vedic literatures, it's one of the analogies. Knowledge or wisdom is compared to a lamp. Why? Why is not anyone? Don't worry. You get the wrong answer, you still get the nice feast dinner. There's no wrong or right. Nobody's getting graded. There's no anxiety here. So, who can tell me? Who has a guess why knowledge is like? Yes, sir.
Produces light and darkness.
It produces light. Okay, you're on the right path. But what is the value of that light? Yeah, what's in the back?
It helps you find direction.
Ah, very good. If you have light, if it's dark, what goes bump in the night, what's hiding under your bed. So if you're in darkness, it's a constant state of anxiety. You can trip, you can fall, somebody's going to whack you over the head. Who knows what the hell's happening? Excuse me, my French, but you don't know what's up. But if there's light, everything becomes clear. You can see direction. You can see your path. So wisdom is compared to knowledge. Wisdom is compared to knowledge. That's a circular logic. Knowledge is compared to light. Knowledge is also compared to a sword. Anyone know why it's compared to a sword? What do you do with a sword? Well, let me bring it into modern vernacular. A machete, because that's mostly. You know what a machete is here? You're not living where you speak Spanish.
Cut through the vines.
Yeah, you cut through the vines. You can hack through things. Krishna compares this world to a banyan tree. It is very complicated to get to the root of who caused this and what caused this and why is this, and it's a very complicated. You know the story of the Gordian knot? Alexander. It's a story. I don't know if it's a historical fact, but the story goes like this. There was a narrow pass. And if you're an army and you go through a narrow, because you're ever in charge of an army, if you're going through a narrow pass, you have to go single file. So an army is very vulnerable when they have to go through a narrow pass, because they're single file or like that. The local king had all of his soldiers on the high ridge. They could cream them. And the riddle was, there was a giant Gordian knot, the original Boy Scout knot. And the local king's challenge was, if you want to go through this pass, You have to untie this knot. If you untie this knot, I'll let you go easily. If not, we're going to slaughter you all. And standing next to the knot were a whole bunch of people, the skeletons of people who had failed. Tough spot, right? What did Alexander the Great do? Anyone notice? The Gordian knot? He took his sword out, and with one swipe, the whole thing just unraveled. So there are so many demands and needs and anxieties and concerns and what is the cause of this and cause of that. But the sword of knowledge cuts through all of that, and we can see things clearly. I'll give you one last one. There's about 6 or 7, but we'll give you one more. Why is knowledge or wisdom compared to shoes? Always in fashion. I just thought of that one. If I'm walking, I'll give you a hint. If I'm walking on a path, a forest path, barefoot, am I easily and comfortably able to traverse that path? Why? You're not wrong. I didn't mean to scare you off. Why? So many sticks, so many rocks, so many twigs. You put on shoes, you can easily cross. Anyone who's lived long enough, this life has some surprises. Sometimes they're good, a lot of times they're not. This world is always full of difficulty. Anyone who thinks they're going to cruise through life without actually difficult, that's a whole other class. But the point I'm making is if you wear shoes, you can cross easily. The shoes of wisdom. If we accept, here's one thing, if you just walk home with it. Anyway. Why me? Why has this happened? Lamentation. Whatever we can change and improve, fine, do that. We're not just stand there stoically like a tree and let the world beat you down. We're not saying that at all. But things that we cannot change and difficulty, instead of facing it, why me, and just raging against the wind, what if we think, hey, what can I learn from this? If we accept that the purpose, the Latin root for the word education, what is the purpose of life? If the purpose of life is enjoy, our senses have already explained how that's a fallible path. What if the reason we're in this world, what if the soul is eternal? My Colorado joke, you'll excuse me. Well, I already gave the punchline, so there it is. A man is trying to explain to his intellectually challenged friend about transmigration, that after there's life after life, energy can be neither created or destroyed, the soul goes on. According to our karma, according to our pious and impious deeds, that determines our next birth. And in this way, we're on the wheel of samsara, so many different births, so many different lives. That's the condition, the existential condition of the self, of the soul. We're all on that wheel, according to the Vedic view. So a man is trying to explain reincarnation, this principle, to his intellectually challenged friend. And he says, if you act piously, in your next life, you're born in a more elevated state. And his dimwit friend says, oh, like Colorado? Think about it, you'll get it. So the point I'm making is, but there actually is a purpose. What if the purpose is, what happens at the time of death? Where do I go? Where is everything coming from? It appears that the world is designed. If it's designed, then there has to be a designer behind it. And that designer seems to be beneficent, sending me sun, air, water, so many different things. If I'm getting $1,000 check in the mail, right on time, we're almost done, it's cool, don't worry about it. Enthusiastic, we appreciate it. If I'm getting $1,000 check in the mail every month, I don't know who it's from. Cash it fast, right? Make sure it clears. It's coming every month. What in the mind of any normal person develops? What do you begin to think about? What's the first thing you think about? Why? Who's sending it? Check clears, they keep sending it. Then you think, who? After you think, why? Why are they sending? Then you're thinking, hey, what's the reason? Do I have an obligation here? And then if it keeps coming, with no obligation, you feel a sense of gratitude. It's the attitude of gratitude. And if we realize, hey, this world is designed, that's another class. Believe me, that's an easy thing to prove. Where there's pattern, order, symmetry, there's design. And be aware there is order, pattern, symmetry, design. There's intelligence behind it. I challenge you to show me any place where there's order, pattern, symmetry, and design where there's not intelligence behind it. Think about it. I'll give you my number. You can email me later on if you come up with, because there isn't one. So there develops from that, if there's a designer, if there's an intelligence who's supplying everything, a sense of gratitude, and that develops into actual love. That's the spirit of bhakti. So in summary, we are not meant to scrape out temporary flickering pleasures that are gone in a flash and never really satisfied. When the default mode of the self is to feel unlimited, ever-increasing happiness. And that happiness is based on developing our relationship, our understanding of the Supreme, the designer behind this creation. We say Krishna. So, and that there's an art and a science how to do that. There is a methodology. All you have to do is pick it up. And it begins with chanting the holy names of the Lord. If I have a piece of metal, I can hold it. It has no heat. It has no light. If I put it in a fire, what happens? Everybody knows. You leave it in a fire long, if you pull it out, it becomes red hot, right? So by that which was dull matter, by association with fire, developed the qualities of fire, heat, and light. The holy name of the Supreme Lord is not a mundane sound vibration. You can chant Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola, water, 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 water all day long and you'll just get thirsty. You chant the holy names of the Supreme Lord and all truth becomes realized. You realize yourself. It just takes time. So we encourage you, please take home one of our books. Take home Bhagavad Gita, take home a small book, feed your head. There's a chart, there's a path, there's the lab books of consciousness, the experiments and the results and how to step this. They're all there by the great sages. We just have to execute them. And just like if I'm hungry, as soon as I sit down at a table and I begin to eat that first mouthful, I feel refreshed. Oh, my little friend. No, promise not. As soon as I put a morsel in my mouth, I feel relieved, isn't it? So it's a process. But as soon as you begin practicing the principles of genuine spiritual life, chanting the holy name of the Lord, there's different things we do. Just like if you do an experiment with contaminated water, the experiment's foul. You have to have it hermetically sealed, so it's not shaken, you have to have distilled water, all that stuff, right? So if our consciousness is the medium for exploring this world, if our consciousness is full of intoxication and bones and feathers from dead animals, and it's full of, whatever was on Bollywood or on Netflix last night, how in the world, with that cloudy consciousness, are we going to perceive the truth? So there's certain things you need to do if you're serious about the thing. And if you consider the benefit of genuine spiritual realization, it's the only game in town. Okay, so we'll end there. We have maybe 3 minutes. Anybody have a question? Don't be shy. Remember your assignment. I'll talk to you later. You and I can have a long talk. Yes, my friend.
Did that man accept the needle from the sadhu?
Oh, did the man accept the needle from the sadhu? No, the man was smart, and he realized, I can't do it. And he had an awakening and realized that he was piling up stacks of sand that were all going to be washed away by the ocean of time. He became self-realized. You're happy? Mm-hmm. All right. Anybody else? Yes, thank you. Because it only takes one. Once somebody asks a question, think, well, I got a question. Yeah.
So yesterday we were listening a lecture. So me and my friend and we were
For the future, it'd be good to have 2 mics. But just we have. Well, where do we have? Anyway, go ahead because we're getting into the second year.
So we were hearing about karma. So if we
Karma or dharma?
Karma.
Okay.
So if we were hearing that we do the wise activity, we will
Get a good result.
Yeah, good result, and if we do the unpacked activities, we'll be great in the next life. So my friend asked the question, who saw the next life? What is the testimony that you gonna do the unpacked activities?
Fantastic. Let me say one thing first, and then I'll get to her question is, hey, who's ever seen karma? Right?
Yes.
Well, I'll get to that in a second. Or your next life. Where's the proof of next life? There's several ways to answer that, but I'll get to it in a second. But I want to question your first premise. That I perform a bad activity and I get a reaction. So I learn how to just perform good activities. But whether I'm performing good activities or bad, kings, for punishment, the original waterboarding, they put somebody on a dunking stool and you hold them under and then you lift them up. And you hold them under the water and then you lift them up. And they're suffering like anything under the water. And when they're lifted up, they feel such relief. So this pain and relief is not really happiness. I do a misdeed, I counter it with a good deed. You're still on that saw in this material world. We are suffering birth, death, disease, old age. So simply to, how to juggle up, down, within that, still within the confines of birth, death, disease, old age. The real question is how to get out of this material world. What if there is if I have, my guru told me this one time, put his hand like this, so you can see. And then he put his hand like this. He said, why does the shadow, let's say this is the shadow, here's the object. Why does the shadow have 5 fingers? Don't overthink it, my friends. Why does the shadow have 5 fingers? Because the original object has 5 fingers. This world has form, it has relationships, it has emotion, it has activity, but it's all ephemeral, it's all temporary, it's all under the influence of time. That's the shadow. But there actually is a spiritual dimension. There's a kingdom of God. How can there be the shadow without the original object? There is an eternal spiritual dimension of kingdom of God, and that's where we belong. This world is just a schoolhouse, jailhouse. It's just a place to to learn our lessons. When you learn the lesson, what is the goal of school? Is the goal of school, I was saying education means to draw from darkness into light. Is the goal of education to stay in school all your life? We had a kid in my high school. He was driving a car, The football coach loved him, but, he never got the brain power to graduate from high school. But everybody else, you graduate, you move on. We're not meant to stay in this world. This world is it's just a flash in the pan. It's like a dream. Dreams can go on for years, and you wake up, what is it? Rapid eye movement, what do they call it? I think dreams are only like milliseconds, actually. But they can seem, this world is a flash in the pan. And it's meant to educate us. When difficulty comes, when obstacle comes, wait a minute, what can I learn from this? How can I grow? The whole world changes. The whole way we see the world and experience the world changes. So first, your premise of just counterbalancing, pushing back, and then suffering. And being on that, teeter-totter, that's not life. We're meant to get out of this whole material world. So that activity, it's called, anyway, you got that one? So as who's seen previous life? Let me ask you a question. Were you a baby at one time? Do you remember it? Yeah. Do you remember being a little girl? Now you're a young lady? I don't mean to scare you, but someday you're going to wind up like me. The riddle of the Sphinx? What animal, and I'm going to nail it down to try to at least. What animal, how's it work? 4 legs in the morning, walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs at noon, and 3 legs in the evening. Anyone know what animal?
Human.
Yeah, human being. You're crawling so we have crawling as a baby, 4, 2, as an adult, and exhibit A. So you get a little nicked and scraped by time. So my point being that we remember, I was, I am, I will be. The I remains constant. But the body is changing it all the time. Bodies change so many times. A little child, you come back a couple years later, you can't even recognize the person. And I tell you another thing, as you get older, as someone who's experiencing it, time goes faster too. You know, it starts to go downhill fast. There's a snowball effect. So, as we've survived so many changes in this body, why should we not survive the change at the time of death? The soul just moves on. As the soul's been present and aware of all those bodies in this life, changing so many bodies we've changed. We also survive the final change when the body just becomes... If you're driving a car and it runs out of gas, you pass out dead in the front seat, then you get out and get into another car. It's just like that. Now, another way of seeing it, there's a friend of mine, he's a professor of education, University of California, San Diego. And he was telling me, how do we know what we know? We've all got a picture in our head of existence, of how it works, how it fits together, what's good, what's right, what's valuable. We've all got that, you know, and we've got a picture of what this world is made up of. Do you know that over 97% of the things we think we know, we did not personally experience? Anybody here, I'll give you an example. Anybody here ever seen the Eiffel Tower? Raise your hand if you've seen the Eiffel Tower. Okay, we got a few people. Let's get a little more exotic. Anybody seen the Taj Mahal? Indians don't count. You got a few. So, but let me ask you, do we have any Eiffel Tower, pyramids, Taj Mahal doubters? It could be Photoshop. Huh? Why do you believe that the Taj Mahal exists if you have not seen it? And just a simple little study right here. Most people believe it because we heard it from someone we trust. Anybody here seen a quark, a neutrino? Anybody seen dark matter? They're still looking for that. But we accept it. Why? Well, it was in the New York Times. Well, you know, MIT says it, it must be true. The majority of what's in our head is because, and the way we see and experience and think about existence is what we've heard from trusted sources. It's not by direct experience. So the real question in life, it's not a question of faith. People have faith in gravity. What if one day we woke up and there was no gravity? I mean, that'd be a little discombobulating. But we have faith that it's going to be there. When they build a building, they have faith in the laws of physics, the laws of, you know, structural engineering. We have faith in so many things. So well, that's just blind faith. We've got faith in so much. You can't get out of your bed without faith. So the real question to ask is what do I have faith in? On what am I basing my faith? And we base our faith on the great saints and sages of time who were free from anxiety, free from fear, filled with unlimited love for every living entity, overwhelmed with compassion. That's who I want to become like. That's who I want to take my advice from. I'm not taking it from Trump or Biden or Mickey Mouse, the fictitious rat. Who are you going to take your advice from? So the great saints and sages since time immemorial say, wake up. You are not that body. You are not that mind. You're the eternal soul within. And you're not meant for small things. You're meant for eternity, knowledge, and happiness, and to do genuine good in the world. That's what you're meant for. So is that okay? That's my best shot. I think we should end because what should we do? I think we should end this time. And if you have a question, you can ask me later on. You're the boss. Tell us what to do. Yeah, she says in. Okay. You can ask me later on.
Okay.
Thank you very much for sitting so patiently. Pretty good.